So this is a very important question, something that is very true to my heart as well. Before we start, I think I'll just pose a question to everyone to just think about. What proportion of our time do you think we spend in buildings? So just take 10 seconds and just have a think about that. Yeah. Okay. Globally, in the developed world, we spend 90% of our time in buildings. In this region, that's about 95%. So just stop and think about that for a second. In the average human life, we spend 72 years inside a building. In that time, we breathe in 2 billion liters of indoor air. Just this morning, you've all breathed in 12,000 liters of air in this building. So what does that mean? Is that good for us, or is it not? In indoor environments, we're exposed to a number of things. Firstly, carbon dioxide levels. As we know, carbon dioxide levels outside are around 350 parts per million. In a very good designed building, a healthy building, that level will be at 1,000 parts per million. In buildings that aren't very well designed, it can be 2,000 or 3,000. So you're exposed to carbon dioxide levels roughly between 5 and 10 times what our bodies are designed for outside. Also, volatile organic compounds. So volatile organic compounds, which many of you know, will be chemicals basically in a vaporous form which we breathe in. So in a building, this can be in many things: the glue that holds the carpet to the floor, the wood, the paint, a whole number of things, the furniture. We're exposed within buildings to VOC levels of around 10 times the levels that there are outside. So that's just two of the aspects. The other things to think about is lighting levels. We don't have natural daylight inside. That affects our moods, affects how productive we are, how happy we are as well. Sometimes noise. In some buildings that we're in, we're exposed to very irritating noise. You probably find when you're in a building and you hear some noise, you actually get used to it after half an hour or an hour or so. That's not a good thing. So there's all these things that we need to consider. And how does that relate to health? It relates very directly to health. We talk about carbon dioxide levels. Many of you, when you finish work, you often leave the office and you get that sort of buzz of energy. That's not just because you've left work. It's also because when you're exposed to carbon dioxide levels, it causes drowsiness, low energy levels, causes headaches, also nausea and other symptoms. VOCs, these chemicals we breathe in. I know I'm in a room of doctors, so I'm preaching to the converted, but as many of you know, the impacts that it has on our internal organs, on our kidneys, on our livers, has proven to be a contributor to causing cancer. Obviously, things like lighting, noise, and things, they impact our mood, which directly impacts also on our health. So, with that in mind, is there a solution? Well, there is. I think what we need to be doing is creating indoor environments that replicate the outside, creating an indoor environment that our bodies are designed to. And I think that's really the challenge that I talk about today. And the question is, does that work? Well, definitely it does. And I think there's a very important piece of research, which was actually done through Harvard, where they took 24 people and they put them in over a 2-week period, expose them into sort of different environments. So they didn't split the people up. They sort of put those 24 people in 3 different scenarios. One was in sort of a standard building. One was in what was designed to be sort of a healthy building or termed a green building. And then the third option was a sort of a building that was designed to be a healthy green building, but with extra amounts of fresh air pumped into it. And what they did is they subjected those 24 people, they'd stay in those buildings for the day, and at the end of the day, they'd do a cognitive function test, to see, how they're able to sort of conduct themselves. The results were actually quite alarming. When you average that across all of the people that took part and over the 2-week period, it was found that those within the building that was designed as a green building actually achieved test scores of 61% higher than those who were in the standard building. Those that were in the green building with higher levels of fresh air were 101% higher rates. So you can see that over the course of someone being exposed to high levels of CO2, low levels of fresh air for a whole day, low levels of daylight and all these things, it definitely impacts them. When at the end of the day, when they're being put forward with a task to do which relates to cognitive function, they are less able to do so. And this is something that can be done. This is an example of a building here in Dubai where we focused specifically on how to create that right indoor environment. You can see from the images, very good levels of natural daylight in improving people's moods. We spent a lot of time making sure that there was high levels of fresh air in there and actually testing, once it's operating, what are the CO2 levels? Are they within the levels that people should be exposed to? Making sure that the noise was managed carefully, that there was proper noise insulation and things. And also even testing the water quality, the water that we're exposed to out of our taps. We're fortunate in Dubai that the water quality is generally very good, but in other parts of the world it's